Back, my friends. Today we have another exciting video here. I'm going to be talking about my 10 favorite effects. I made a video 1 or 2 years ago about my top 10 favorite music video effects. If you're new, if you're a beginner in editing, or if you're interested in that video as a whole, you can check that out in the link down below. This video is going to be my top 10 favorite effects, not just music video effects, because you can use these for any type of video content creation. Now, before we start the tutorial, I just want to mention 3 important things. The difference between my last video and this video is the last video was more of me just showing you things that I thought looked cool or things that were used in music videos, like the Ecto plugin. Before, it was basically me saying, hey, I think the Ecto plugin's cool. People use the Ecto plugin. You guys can use it too to make these type of effects. My goal for this video is to open the door for new techniques. I want to use your creativity as the fuel that turns these techniques, these tools that I'm going to show you in this editing software, into interesting visuals, interesting videos, your own works of art, whatever you want to call it. And the second difference is these are going to be more general than the last ones. Again, I don't want to just show you things that you can copy and paste. I want to open doors for new ways that you can learn new things. So without any further ado, let's get right into my top 10 favorite effects, starting off with number 1. And this is a repeat from my last video, but we're going to get a little more in depth. And that is overlays. Overlays remain on my list because A, they're simple, they're easy to use. There's a bunch of different ones that you can find on the internet. You can even create your own. So you have an endless supply of different overlays that you can use in different situations, different videos. Just make sure you don't get too attached to the same different overlays and use them over and over in a lot of your videos. Always be looking for new ones. In the 2-year span between the first time I talked about overlays, the main thing I learned is to keep them organized in a folder. As you can see here, my overlays and elements folder, film burns, we have shockwaves, we have the green screen pack, which is available for free on my website if you want to check it out. We have our VHS overlays, we have bokeh, sound design. When it comes to applying an overlay, it's very simple. You take the MP4 MOV clip, whatever it is, this is just some bokeh, you drag it into a video layer above your footage. As you can see, here's the raw clip. You select the clip, you go up to your effect controls, under your opacity, we're going to change our blending mode to overlay. Or, of course, you can use any of the other blending modes. There's soft light, hard light. If you're not seeing this well enough, you can use your Lumetri color panel here, color grade, and make any necessary adjustments you need for the overlay. If you are stuck using the same overlays, search the internet, or again, I mentioned it earlier, create your own overlays. You can do this with any camera. You just got to be creative with it, put it behind a green screen, put it behind a black background. So that is number 1. We're going to keep it general, brief. We're going to be going quick. If you guys want the full step-by-step on any of the things I'm talking about here, I'm going to leave specific tutorials of all the individual things we're covering down below. Moving on to number 2. Number 2 is animation. And this is something that has been used in music videos for a long time. And the best thing about this is there isn't just one way to go about it. For all of you music video creators, a lot of people do the line effects, the glowing line effects. That's a great place to start, but there's so much more you can do, you can learn, and you can add on top of it. YouTubers like Howard Wilmhurst, Olaf Storm, and many, many more have a lot of awesome tutorials using Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Animate, After Effects, Cinema 4D. There's tons of different ways to create animation and incorporate it into your videos. You guys can, of course, watch a lot of the tutorials that I put out and talk about on animation. Quick promo before we move on to number 3, and that is we recently created this animation plugin extension window for After Effects. You can also use the clips for any editing software, so it's cross-compatible for anything. Go to Window, Extensions, Media Monopoly extension, and you have a giant library of different preset animations which you can use for your videos. Number 3, and this is a big one, clean, seamless transitions. Now, in the past, and there's nothing wrong with this, we've talked about many different ways to create or find different preset transitions, different zoom transitions, different swipe transitions. I still use those a lot because plugins and presets are very handy. They save a lot of time. We'll get into that later, but there are a lot of different ways to create transitions than just a drag and drop preset template. So 3 of my favorite seamless, clean transitions is A, in-camera transitions. That's more of using your thought processing on how motion works than it is actually doing something in the editing software, doing something on set with a camera in your settings, whatever it is. There's a lot of amazing videos out there on in-camera transitions. On your screen, you're going to be seeing a few here. Check them out, learn something new. You guys can use this specific technique in a lot of different creative ways and in a lot of different applications. The second clean, seamless transition I really like is the crash zoom. I made a video on this a little while back. I really love this effect. I like how it looks. It's something that I really enjoyed after seeing Tarantino's Kill Bill movies where you have that zoom in. That was probably done in camera with different camera gear, and I've actually talked about that in the tutorial video I made for the crash zoom, but it's very easy to replicate within After Effects, as you can see here. It takes under 2 minutes to be able to do this with an After Effects camera, and it has a very customizable look. The last thing I want to mention is match cuts. This is one of my favorite transitions because there's so many different ways to do it. It's very clean, it's very seamless. I made a full comprehensive tutorial breaking down match cuts in some of my favorite music videos. And then I also showed you how to create 5 different types of match cuts. So highly recommend you check that video out. Those 3 transitions in of itself are things that you see in a lot of different video mediums, not just music videos, not just commercial videos, but you see them in a lot of movies as well. So I mentioned using an After Effects camera for the crash zoom. That leads me on to my 4th favorite type of effect, technique, whatever you want to call it. That is movement effects, movement techniques. These are, again, very simple. You can use them in a bunch of different ways. These are essential for matching the edit to the music. This is going to help you when it comes to visualizing audio. I made a video talking all about motion in After Effects, how you can create fake camera movement, and it's as simple as literally right-clicking in this gray space in After Effects, going to New, Camera, and as you see, you can set your camera settings up to be whatever you want. If you want a wide angle 35mm preset, if you want a zoom preset, and it's saying this is not affecting 2D layers, we can fix that easily by just checking this 3D layer box on our footage. Now we can click the C key on our keyboard and we can create different keyframes for different type of movements. So originally, this is what the shot looks like. It's a little loop so that I have him throwing it and then it going backwards. So let's go ahead and just create keyframes here. We'll move in a bit, and whenever he throws this cup, just kind of zoom in. So bam. And then as it goes back to him, we'll just click reset and it'll create all these reset keyframes. So now we have a little bit more emphasis towards that. You can do this in, again, a bunch of different ways. So using your After Effects cameras is one way to create motion. Another thing is just doing simple things in Adobe Premiere. You can do it in your motion effect controls area here, where you just keyframe your position scale. There's a part in your song where there's a bass drop or something where you want to add emphasis. If you drag the audio layer down like this, you can see the audio waves a lot better. Talked about this in my last Lil Nas X full tutorial. Do this in any basic editing software. It doesn't have to be Premiere. It can be Final Cut, Sony Vegas, as long as you have these keyframe option. Toggle position scale. Whenever that beat drop hits, bump up the scale, maybe zoom in a bit, and then again, let's reset at the end. You'll see what we have, little bump. And this is just the basics. That's just the general. If you want a lot more information or step-by-steps, check out the link below. Number 5 is tracking. Now, this is pretty broad. There's a lot of ways that you can do tracking within After Effects or some sort of third-party software. You right-click on the footage, you go to track and stabilize, and then you have your track camera, your warp stabilizer VFX, and your track motion. And within that, you can do a lot. If you guys want a breakdown of the basics of what I just mentioned, you guys can check out my ultimate guide for tracking. Some interesting effects that you can do with tracking include the lock-on effect, which I featured in my Drake and Travis Scott tutorial that you can see on the screen here. It's also been used in a lot of commercials. And this is something where if you use this tool and you get comfortable with it, there's no saying what you're able to create. You can do everything from compositing in 3D elements into your scene. In my Lil Nas X Panini tutorial, I created an entire city within 3D, and then I used After Effects Tracker to composite these cool holograms onto the buildings and give it a futuristic Ghost in the Shell Blade Runner vibe to it. You can even use Cinema 4D or any other 3D software, use the tracking information in After Effects, and bring those cameras that you track into 3D softwares to be able to track in 3D scenes and 3D characters. So again, learn your tracking. There's some really cool stuff you can create with it, not only for music videos, commercials, again, but there's a lot of cool Instagram creators out there using tracking, facial tracking in After Effects, and it's gotten really good to the point where you can make some really amazing things. So my next favorite is using 3D. Now, this was something that is pretty intimidating for a lot of people, myself included, when first starting out. If you're into editing tutorials, if you learn from those, and if you follow along with Cinema 4D tutorials, Blender tutorials, Element 3D tutorials, whatever it is you're doing, you'll be able to learn 3D as well. It's not that hard, I promise you. There's a few things you need to learn, but I started from knowing no 3D around maybe a year ago, nowhere near what people are able to do now, but I'm a lot more confident in my ability to actually take something in 3D and put it in footage. Before, I had no idea how to do that. Before, I knew nothing about 3D. Look into this because, again, you can take something that's in your head and you can completely create it in this 3D virtual world. I think 3D is going to open up so many different doors of opportunity for you guys. You're going to be able to take it to the next level and you're going to be able to create some really interesting things. Next up is green screen and keying. The more and more you climb up the ladder of editing visual effects, the more you're going to run into green screen as a tool for compositing. Now, you don't have to be doing the most advanced things like in Game of Thrones. Literally, as I speak now, I'm filming this with a green screen behind me. There's so many different things you can do with a green screen at any level of editing, whether you're doing it from your home or you're doing it from a studio. I recently made a video talking about unique visual effects using green screens, different ways I use green screens. One of the subjects in this music video was wearing a green suit, and we created some cool Black Mirror style, that idea in mind. In that same video, I talk about how you can have a green screen performance shot, take out that green screen and composite in a complete background like you're seeing on the screen here. If you would like some green screen tips, check that out. Again, I'm not claiming to be master of green screen. I'm not claiming to be master of blue screen. There's a lot of information out there. You can use these green screen effects, keying effects at so many different levels. Green screen in itself, keying of itself, isn't going to mean anything if you don't have some knowledge about compositing. Now, this is another thing like tracking, where you can use this tool to do so many different things. Everything like these freeze frame effects, which we talked about in music videos, everything like these cool split screen, ASAP Ferg effects. That's the bare minimum of what you can do with masking. Of course, you have your rotoscoping, huge things in the visual effect industry. Some other things that beginners can do are intermediates. I talked about this in my little Nas video, which I just put out. You can use tracking and you can use compositing to blend together scenes that spice the scene up, make it look a little bit more interesting. Something like putting a moon in a background, like in the little Nas video. So aside from all the creative applications of this is also a great thing to know if you're doing corporate work. I had a client job once where I had to mask out a bunch of the background to make it look more professional and clean because there was a bunch of reflections. If I didn't know how to mask, the video would have been completely ruined. So a huge part of that was fixed in post. Aside from masking being a great creative tool, it's also probably one of the most useful tools in your tool belt when it comes to editing. Having that ability to be able to patch things up, fix things in post, and save things is a very valuable skill. All right, guys, so number 9 on our list, simple effects used in a unique way. And this is something I like because all this really comes down to is building upon the things that you learn, mixing them up, combining things, trying new ways to do something that you know how to do. I've made a few videos talking about this, things like some unique ghost effects, some different ways to do it, things like some different ways to make title sequences. There's a lot of really interesting effects which are built into Adobe Premiere, After Effects, Final Cut, whatever it is you're using them. I just want to tell you that you don't have to just drag and drop something on there. There's always a way you can build upon it, customize it. And as we go along, I'm going to enjoy really making a lot of videos focused on that, just trying to show you guys a different light of something that you may not have known about. And the last thing I want to mention in this list is using plugins, presets, and templates. And this isn't just some sort of plug to get you to go buy something. This is a great way to save time, gives you the ability to do things you wouldn't be able to do in the capabilities of just the base program you are using. And when you combine these plugins with other techniques that I may have mentioned, you can create some really interesting stuff. So I'm planning on making a full video about some plugins. I've made ones in the past for After Effects, for Cinema 4D, different ones that I like. I want to make an updated version of that for you guys. And that's just the plugins. Presets, again, it's a way I make a living. It's also a way to save time. It's also a way to create some interesting stuff. I use the presets that I create on a lot of the videos that I work for. It's taking things that I already did to begin with, and it's just making it in one drag and drop fashion. So it saves you a lot of time. And then of course templates, and this is a big one. I talked about this recently. I use templates for a lot of things like the subscribe buttons that you saw at the beginning of this. I also use it for things like outros. It's nice because it gives you those areas where you can customize, but at the same time, it gives you a great starting point as opposed to starting from scratch. So they're not good to use in every case, but they are great to use in a lot of cases. So you just kind of have to take with that what you will. But anyways, guys, that is my updated list of my 10 favorite effects. And as we go along and get more into the digital age, there's going to be a lot more people getting into it. And I think a larger demand for skill sets like this, which you can learn from the internet. So I hope you guys enjoy. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you did. Thank you so much for supporting. Thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you guys in the next one.